Hey yo, how's it going guys? SixftHax here, half for y'all today. My round 7 match of the Smogon PU Winter Seasonal. So if you guys are excited, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Also, if you do enjoy our little series here, so quick little backstory. I am unfortunately in the losers bracket because I couldn't play my round 6 match due to time constraints, and me and my opponent just never being able to set a time basically. So even though I am in the losers bracket, that still means I have a chance to win this entire tournament, which would be pretty cool. But now it means that if I lose a game, I'm basically out of the tournament. So that kind of sucks that we had to take our first loss like that. But I mean, it's fine. Honestly, I didn't expect to make it this far into the PU Winter Seasonal. So any round past this is basically exceeding my expectations. So I'm fine with just kind of being like, okay, well, one and done. All right, let's just keep it going and see how far we can get. So shouts out to my boy Tone for passing me this pretty awesome PU squad here. We are facing Triistiana. I apologize if I said their name incorrectly. I'm pretty sure I did, but yeah, if you see this, then I guess let me know how you pronounce your name. Anyways, looking at their team, it seems to be a really slow-based team. The fastest thing is going to be like Scarf Mesprit, I would assume. It doesn't really look Trick Room-ish, so I'm not worried about the Trick Room. The main thing that actually did scare me in this game was going to be Drampaw. Just because Specs Drampaw just kind of comes in and murders something. Like that's really it, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I need to be very careful with that. Lurantis also kind of scared me just because I don't really know what Lurantis does. I don't know if it's going to be like Superpower, Assault Vested, Leaf Storm, Defog. It's going to be fat. Is Scarf viable? I have no idea. So yeah, Lurantis scared me just because of unpredictability, and then Drampaw basically just gets a kill. Everything else I figured I could potentially deal with accordingly. Also, again, it would make so much sense for this Mesprit to be Scarf. So either way, I figured that my Primate was probably my best lead just because I pair up really well against everything. Plus, if you look at his team, Banded Primate just kind of murders something. So I U-turned out on the Aggron expecting him to switch. As I bring in my Regirock, I'm able to get on my rocks on the switch into his Aggron and then get off a huge amount of damage with this Earthquake. As it then turns out that I win a speed tie, I'm guessing. So maybe he just wasn't running any speed at all on his Aggron, and I don't think I was running any speed on my Regirock regardless. So I switch out here into my Dodrio on this Lurantis. Now I know this seems really odd, but the main reason I decided just to go ahead and probably sacrifice my Dodrio is because looking at my team, like nothing really wants to take a Leaf Storm. And then even if I take a Leaf Storm, I don't think I can one-shot Lurantis, or I think I don't outspeed. Which means by bringing in my Dodrio, I cover everything in one Mon. Although yes, I do lose what is most likely the fastest Mon in this entire battle. Because if this Mesprit is Scarf, that means it outspeeds the entirety of my team except for Scarf Dodrio. But realistically, I don't mind losing Dodrio this early in the match. If this is Scarf Mesprit, that means it's not going to be able to be as annoying, I think. Just because the speed really isn't that big of an issue when it locking itself into a move is actually very beneficial to me. So also with him having double electrics and Lantern and Oricorio, I can't really lock myself into Brave Bird so easily. So a part of me was thinking, well, obviously he may not think I'm going to go for Brave Bird here, so I could definitely go for the return. But if he does stay in, I don't want to lose my Dodrio to this Lurantis. So ultimately I just go for the Brave Bird, which may seem like a straightforward play, but there was logic behind it, especially because it turns out being very beneficial to me as he brings in the Mesprit here, which is revealed to not be defensive. If this was physically defensive, I think this Brave Bird only did about 30-ish%, almost 40%. Like I think max would have been like 40%, but it would have been around the 30 range. But because it did over 50%, now I'm convinced that this is definitely a choiced Mesprit. It's either Scarfed or Specs. Either one, I don't care, because I'm just going to Brave Bird again, and down goes the Mesprit. The fact that he stayed in probably confirms that he was Scarf, because he probably thought that he would be faster than me, so he would live a hit, and then revenge kill me, and then he's got Mesprit for later in this game. But no, Scarf Dodrio is an absolute monster. So down goes the Mesprit, in comes the Oricorios. I was really hoping my Brave Bird was going to be able to knock him out. Unfortunately, though, it is not, as he's able to roost off the damage here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my Frost Slash because this is the fastest thing I have that can also one-shot this Oricorio without me needing to pop my Z move on my Alolan Persian, which can actually come in handy very later in the battle. So, much like earlier, I'm in a bit of a predicament because I don't know if I really want to Shadow Ball or Ice Beam. Now obviously Shadow Balling here is probably the better play I can make because he can easily switch into his Lurantis as fodder, or he can just switch into what is most likely a Assault Vest Lantern. The only issue with me Shadow Balling though is that even though I am Life Orbed and max special attack, if he has max HP investment and he's more of a bulky Oricorio, then that means my Shadow Ball does not knock him out, but at the same time there's no way he knocks me out in return. So in the long run, going for Shadow Ball here over something like Spikes or Ice Beam was definitely my better play because I 2-hit KO or OHKO whatever comes in, and if the only thing I need to risk is this Oricorio being max HP when there's a good chance that it couldn't be, then Shadow Balling, literally no drawback ultimately compared to Ice Beam. So down goes Oricorio. This is super nice, as in comes the Lantern. I know I can live any hit this thing wants to go for, and I don't actually care about getting off too much damage on this Lantern because all I need to do is just hit it once, so then I can bring in my Alolan Persian, pop my Darkinium Z, or force him out. Because with this layer of spikes up, even if this Lantern is forced out, anytime it comes in, it's losing 24% of its HP, and that is very beneficial to me regardless of what my opponent wants to do. So I go for a layer of spikes, I live the hit. Shadow Ball, I do get a little lucky and I get a Spadef drop, but honestly I don't really think that Spadef drop mattered whatsoever, as you guys will see, because regardless I would have gone for the Darkinium Z with my Alolan Persian here and severely weaken this Lantern. As he does not get the paralysis on me, I'm able to knock out the Lantern. In comes the Lurantis. I'm just gonna start spamming Dark Pulse, getting off as much damage as I can on this Lurantis because I want to guarantee it in range of where my Banded Primeape. So I was going to say Scarf Primeape because I'm so used to using Scarfape, but no, this is definitely Banded Primeape. So all I needed to do was just get off a little bit of damage, and then Banded Primeape basically just click close combat, a U-turn, and got a kill. So I really don't think that flinch mattered whatsoever. As a U-turn here, I don't want to close combat just because I didn't want to close combat and I guess risk Drampa living, but this thing would have been murdered either way. So Choice Specs Ice Beam though will be able to do in the Drampa. So pretty solid victory here for game number 1, although that's only one victory. We have to win one more hopefully. So let's go ahead and jump into game number 2. Alright, so we got game number 2 here, and he brings another really cool looking squad. This time though, he definitely has speed with that Scarf Primeape. And speaking of Scarf Primeape, that is pretty much the biggest threat to my team if you look at it. Now even though, yeah, I do have Jellicent and I do have Roselia, he has a Roselia of his own and a Mesprit, which means he is definitely going to try and hazard stack me. So if this gets into a hazard stacking war, ultimately his Primeape I think will definitely be able to come out on top against the team that I have brought here. Also, Articuno is kind of terrifying because anytime I face an Articuno, it's always a giant problem, and I never expect it to be a giant problem, so I always feel like I just overthink about Articuno in the battle. It's just, I don't like facing Articuno, dude. I'm always like, oh, I just get a Brox, right? And I can deal with it. Nope, no, okay, alright. Yep, there goes Articuno, being Articuno and annoying. The one weird thing, though, is that he has Kabutops, which has me thinking maybe he's got Rain Dance on something, or maybe this could just be like a rapid spinning Scarf Kabutops to catch things off guard. I don't really know. I've never seen Kabutops outside of Rain, so I don't really know what it's going to do. Regardless, though, much like game number 1, I figured, hey, I can just lead Primeape and just kind of have a good matchup against everything. As I U-turn out against the Mesprit here, I figured that if he was a choiced Mesprit, if he Ice Beamed there, that would have been really, really bad. But because I had Alolan Sandslash in the back, he could very well just expect me to bring in Alolan Sandslash. So even if he was Specs, I wasn't fearing Ice Beam per se, because it would have made sense for him to U-turn or switch out. But it turns out that he does have rocks on the Mesprit, which means he most likely is not a Specs Mesprit, which is nice. So in comes Articuno as I get up my Stealth Rocks. I could have gone for the Rock Slide there, but I figured that if he stayed in, me getting up Rocks regardless is my better play. And then I'm going to make a cheeky play here and predict him to predict me to switch out into either Jellicent or my Sandslash, and I'm actually going to stay in and go for the Toxic. The main reason I wanted to do this is because if Rock Slide was not able to knock him out, then at least by going for the Toxic on this Articuno, I can put it on some type of timer, And because he had Hidden Power Fire, this means he may not actually have Defog, or he may not have Heal Bell, more than likely. So Toxicking there, I think, was a solid play. It also covered him potentially switching into his Mesprit, because I don't think he would want to risk bringing anything else in on my Mudsdale. Like Roselia is going to take a good amount of damage from any type of physical hit. So yeah, him staying in or switching in the Mesprit made the most sense to me. As this turn I am going to go for the Rock Slide though, in case he wanted to stay in, thinking that I would switch out this turn instead, as I get off a little bit of damage on the Roselia. This is actually kind of bad for me, because now this Roselia can get up a layer of spikes, and the main reason I brought in my Primate was because if you wanted to go for Sleep Powder, I have Vital Spirit, and then I thought that Stone Edge would be strong enough to knock him out at 53%, and Stone Edge is realistically my best middle ground play to do in this scenario. I don't want to Earthquake, I don't really want to U-turn, because I don't want him to just hazard stack me as much as possible. So going for Stone Edge I felt was really no drawback, and I still damage whatever came in, as he makes a really smart play here, and he brings in his Primate just knowing I wouldn't go for the close combat. It tanks the Stone Edge, and now I am terrified because I potentially need to sack something off to this Primate, as he actually ends up going for the U-turn on my Mudsdale here, bringing in his Lantern. I would actually much rather see Lantern than see the Articuno or the Mesprit in this scenario, because what can happen now is that since I am very clearly slower than this Lantern, I'm hoping that he is going to expect me to switch out, and he stays in and over predicts and either goes for the Volt Switch or goes for the Ice Beam. That way I can live a hit and then in return potentially knock out this Lantern with the Earthquake. So that's what I'm going to try and do, but he calls me on my bluff, as down goes my Mudsdale. This gives me a free switch into my own Roselia now, so I can get up my layer of spikes, and now I'm able to even the playing field. Yes, this does give him a free switch into potentially one of his offensive threats, but depending on whatever comes in, I may or may not be able to switch something in against it and then deal with it accordingly. So because he brought in Mesprit here, I'm thinking he may just want to go straight for the Psychic, so I'm going to make an aggressive switch into my Alolan Sandslash, as he actually ends up getting up the Rain here. Now, this is very scary. I did not expect them to have Rain Dance on Mesprit, but now it makes so much sense as to why he has this random ass Kabutops here. So now I have to deal with Kabutops in the rain, and I also have to deal with these entry hazards, because on this turn what I can do is either go for the Rapid Spin and hope that he doesn't bring in one of his offensive mons, and that he may just be trying to sack off Roselia to me to get a free switch into Kabutops, or I can just be aggressive in case he does want to bring an offensive threat against me. Because if you're looking at it like this from my opponent's perspective, he may think that I just want to Rapid Spin, so that way my walls aren't pressured and they're not more weak for when Kabutops comes in. The only issue with that though is that if I try to play this too passively, I could be in a very bad spot. So ultimately, being aggressive here with the Iron Head I thought was going to be my better play regardless. Like, hazards are annoying, yes, but even if I get rid of hazards, Kabutops can just come in and potentially sweep me. So I decided to be aggressive, as he actually makes a switch into his Primate, thinking that I more than likely would go for the Rapid Spin, but I did go for the Iron Head, and down goes the Primate. And this is absolutely amazing, because now if I'm able to play around the Kabutops, then he doesn't really have any more speedy threats against my team, which means my Scarf Primate and my Oricorio can definitely put in a lot of work at this point in the battle. So down goes the Primate. All I need to do is deal with this Kabutops now, and I'm really not too sure if I can even live a hit from Kabutops. Regardless though, I don't have a switch in to this Kabutops, and I definitely don't want to let him just Swords Dance for free. So I'm going to sacrifice my Alolan Sandslash here in hopes that maybe he would try to Swords Dance, then that way I could severely weaken him. But he decides to be aggressive and go for the Continental Crush, which I am able to live. Not only did Alolan Sandslash knock out Primate with no attack investment, but because I am max HP invested, we tank this Continental Crush. And now what this means is that after this Earthquake damage, I will be able to bring in my Jellicent, live any one hit, and in return knock out the Kabutops. So if he did have the Swords Dance and he had gone for SD there, I think he actually would have just flat out won the battle. I think there was no way I could have outstalled the Rain turns, because I think, did he have? No. Actually, I don't remember if he had Damp Rock on Mesprit or not. Either way though, I can live one hit with my Jellicent here, and because he didn't Swords Dance, I can beat the Kabutops, as he did have Damp Rock. So yeah, if he did Swords Dance initially, I think Kabutops actually would have just right out won. It would have come down to whether or not he had missed a Stone Edge on my Jellicent, I think, and that basically would have been my only way out. But again, he was just aggressive with the Continental Crush. As in comes the Lantern. I don't mind losing my Jellicent to this Lantern, honestly, because what this allows me to do is go ahead and bring in my Primeape. Now, yes, obviously, I could have brought in Roselia. I could have brought in Roselia here and maybe gone for like Sludge Bomb or something, right? The only issue with that, though, is that I'm pretty sure Articuno still lives any hit from my Roselia, which means I may have to allow it to roost, or I pick something to sack. His own Roselia coming in could have potentially lived a hit, and if it was faster than me, it synthesizes or gets up another layer of spikes. I guess Mesprit switching in on my Roselia wouldn't have been entirely too bad, but I don't have a switch into as Mesprit regardless. So I figured by bringing in my Primeape here, because I'm pretty positive he's not going to risk Articuno or Roselia, or even if he switches in Articuno or Roselia, they are 2-hit KO'd or KO'd respectively. And then even if he brings a Mesprit on my Primeape, we already know 3 moves that this Mesprit has, which means if his last move is not Psyshock or Ice Beam, my Calm Mind Oricorio can actually straight up just win this battle. And even if he does save this Lantern after a couple Calm Minds, this Lantern is not going to be able to touch my Oricorio regardless. So I figured if it really came down to it, I can just close combat here, sacrifice my Primeape to that Mesprit, and then get a free switch into my Oricorio to start Calm Minding, as he actually leaves in the Lantern, and then in comes the Mesprit. Close combat does basically nothing to him, but as we're going to see here, he turns out to have the Psychic and not the Psyshock, which means my bulky Oricorio can come in here. Once I get to +2 special attack, +2 special defense, the game is basically over. Unless I get super unlucky and I miss a whole bunch of Hurricanes and he crits me a lot, then there's not really much that he can do to me at this point in the battle. As he does get a crit there, that crit really does not matter. If I wanted to, honestly, I could have just got up to +6, but +6 would have been complete overkill. +2 is safe, and then a +6, he probably would have crit me back to back as I missed like 3 Hurricanes or something. So down goes the Mesprit. I pop my Z Hurricane on Articuno because I don't want to miss and get frozen, and then Roselia being his last Mon should not be able to beat my Oricorio 1v1, and that is going to be the 2-0 victory for me in this battle and for round number 7. So round number 8 should be up either Sunday or Monday, I want to say. And then hopefully we can win round 8 and go on to round 9, which would be amazing, dude. Like at this point, we're getting into like the top cut of the people in the actual tournament. So really excited for that. And hopefully y'all did enjoy these 2 matches, the series in general. I will see you all tomorrow on Tuesday. So later, everybody.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in a knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion, but when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears, or hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.